What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another 2026 movie review. And today we are talking about a movie called Outcome, now streaming on Apple TV, what used to be Apple TV Plus, but they dropped the plus, so now it's just Apple TV. And this film is from director and starring Jonah Hill. And Jonah Hill's not starring, that's still Keanu Reeves as the star of this movie, but he is in it as one of the main characters. But I didn't realize he has directed 4 other films, and he did a short film, Ain't It Funny, in 2017. That was only 4 minutes. It seems like he's working on a movie called The Cutoff, coming maybe later this year. He did The Outcome, that we'll talk about in this video. He did Stutz, S-T-U-T-Z, in 2022. That seems like an hour and a half. And then about an hour and a half, 86 minutes, mid-90s, with the kid Sonny Shiljic, butchered his last name, but Sonny, who played Atreus in the God of War video games, which I absolutely loved him as Atreus, and I hope he gets, you know, his own Loki video game. If you guys know, you know. But yeah, so Jonah's directed a few things now, but he's also acted in 59 films. He's been a producer now, and he seems to be entering to that role. You know, he was an actor for many years, doing these funny roles, you know, doing things like 21 Jump Street, and, you know, then he started executing, producing films, and then he started writing some films, and he did the story for 21 and 22 Jump Street, Sausage Party, Why Him? That's very funny. I like though that he did the story for those. But he also wrote that mid-90s that I was just talking about. He wrote You People with Eddie Murphy. That was back in 2023. That was kind of funny. And it looks like he wrote and produced and stars and directs in Outcome here. And Outcome I really genuinely liked. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did, you know, and I was watching it and like, you know, I want to do some expectation management. You know, if you're going to click on this movie, it's not a action heavy movie. It's not a super thrilling movie. It does have a really good story, and it follows a really interesting cast that we'll go through here in a moment, right? So we got Keanu Reeves as Reef Hawk. You have Jonah Hill as his crazy crisis lawyer named Ira, who he plays a little too well. It was almost like Jonah Hill had a certain person in mind for this guy. You know, he has fake teeth, he has this big beard, bald head. He's like... There was some really funny parts in this, but also really dumb. You know, it kind of reminded me of another movie that came out on Amazon Prime recently called Balls Up, which was like, it's decent, but it's dumb. But like, things like that movie did well was like the setting and like everything they were looked really good. So it felt like they spent the money getting 2 guys and then they spent the rest of it on like shooting locations. Where this film, it feels like Jonah Hill spent all of the money getting cast, and then everything else is like by the side. You know what I mean? Like he, you know, the shooting sets, like the set locations feel like they're maybe on a stage somewhere, maybe with like a couple of pieces of wood in the background and maybe the volume for lighting for like to make it look like they're at the beach. But for the most part, this feels like a very, very cheap film to make, but all the money went to the stars in the film because Keanu Reeves probably ain't cheap. Jonah Hill, as the director, writer, you know, he's probably not cheap, even though he's probably paying himself or whatnot. But Cameron Diaz plays one of Reef Hawk's best friends. Matt Bomer is also one of their best friends, and he has a hilarious post-credit scene where, like, Keanu's character was supposed to star on the Drew Barrymore show, and he walks out, but they never show you what happens after he walks out. So the post-credit scene shows how she's, like, freaking out. She's like, we're gonna be live in 5 seconds, what the fuck? And Matt Bomer's character slides in as like his best friend Xander, and she's like, I don't even know who you are. And he goes, I'm the second most interesting motherfucker in this room. You could trust me on that. And then the show starts, and she's like, I don't know who this is. This is supposed to be a special presentation. And he's like, you know what? You are so great to all your guests and you listen so intently to them, so that's why I'm here. I'm here to listen to you. And she goes, okay, do we have tissues? We're gonna start unpacking this. You know, and I was just dying that like she was the one person in this that killed me when she showed up, was Drew Barrymore, because I was like, oh shit, she showed up as herself in the film. I was like, oh wow, hey. But like Roy Woods Jr. was in here, Atsuko Okatsuka, who is a very funny woman, but I don't know if I just butchered the shit out of her name, but she was one of like the lawyers in the room. Martin Scorsese is doing more acting work, which I find hilarious because he was in here as a brief role, and it was like, you know, Jonah Hill was like, hey, you let me be in your movie one time, why don't you come be in mine? And he's like, okay, you know, like Marty's so happy to be acting in films. Like, and it's funny because he went from like The Studio, now Marty Scorsese's acting in this, and he's gonna be playing like an alien with like 5 arms in The Mandalorian and Grogu, who like runs like a little substand or whatever, you know, like a little alien space shop. Like David Spade is in there as like his neighbor named Buddy, who's just has a couple funny lines. Laverne Cox is in there, she's pretty funny. Susan Lucci, you know, so like this cast is pretty legit, right? Like has some people that you would see or even recognize from their names, but as soon as you saw their face, you're like, oh, I recognize that person, I recognize this person, I recognize that person. You know, like as far as cast, right? Like I'm somebody that like, you know, I don't necessarily need an action movie to enjoy a movie, you know, especially if, you know, you don't even necessarily need the cast. If you have somebody as good as Keanu Reeves, I'll follow him through the entire movie and be just as happy as any other movie. You know what I mean? Like, I just like seeing him act and do his thing, you know? So in this film, I wasn't necessarily bought into Reef Hawk as a character, but the cast around him, I was so here for. And like Jonah Hill as that crazy lawyer, I really wanted to see more of him. Every time he was on screen, I was like, this guy's hilarious. But he's also like he made like specific weird niche like things for this guy to be into and doing, but it also felt so authentic. Like this guy was a real crazy psychopath lawyer, but really at the end of the day he was like a nice guy too. Like he wasn't just crazy for the sake of crazy. Like Jonah also wrote in like this heartfelt, like the guy had a kid in a wheelchair, right? So he's a crazy guy, but he's also a dad that takes his son to the Dodgers game. You know what I mean? Like I was like, what the hell is going on here? Jonah Hill, what are you doing to me? Stop messing with my emotions. But on Letterboxd here, the little Letterboxd synopsis reads, Reef Hawk, Hollywood poster child since age 6 is not okay. When he learns about an extortion plot tied to a mysterious video, Reef preemptively sets out on a redemption tour to make amends, confront his demons, and avoid getting canceled, right? So it feels very Hollywood in the sense where like it's about an actor, right? Like it's Keanu Reeves playing another guy, Reef Hawk, who was this child prodigy star and has been famous since he was 6 years old. So almost like Macaulay Culkin or something, you know, and like he's very, very famous, but then he was also had a hidden heroin problem that his lawyer and his best friends hid from the public. So like the public doesn't know he's a junkie. So he's in his head being like, oh my God, do people know I was doing drugs? Do they know I'm up at the fucked up shit? You know, like who's trying to blackmail me? You know, what is this video of? So then he's like trying to go around and apologize to anyone that he's done dirty, to preemptively be like, are you the person trying to fuck me over and leak my information? And eventually, you know, the movie pans out in like the third act, you find out who is extorting him, what's on video, whatnot, you know, and it's not even like a good video, you know, like that's it. Like once you find out what's on video, it's not like, oh my God, it's crazy, you know, it's just kind of like you feel bad for him. And then like he goes through the motions and he's talking to this guy and he's like, you know, he gets him down from 10 million to 35K and he signs him a check and has this, you know, thing that could have canceled him just blow past. And he's like, I always thought about what I'd say to you, and I don't know, do you hate me? And the guy's like, no, dude, I love you. I'm just broke. And like, he kind of laughs to himself and then goes and apologizes to everyone else in his life. And, you know, seems to, at the end of this movie, the outcome is that he moves on with his life and starts living in the moment and stops living for what the people in the public thinks about him, and now he's going to start caring more and more what the people around him, the people that love him, actually think, you know? And it's got like a nice little message in there, as well as being a funny little dumb movie. But if it was anything more than what it was, I would have probably had a lesser score for it. But it's under 90 minutes, so Jonah Hill, you really fucking knew where to hit my sweet spot, where I'm like, okay, under 90 minutes, fun, good cast, has some laughs, has some good writing, and has a story in there that I can follow and get around, wrap my head around. You know what I mean? So overall, for me, this is a 3 out of 5 star film, about a 6 out of 10. If I had to give it a true 10 score, it might be like a 6.6. You know, like it's a decent 3 out of 5, but it's definitely not a 7 and definitely not below. Right around that middle of the road for me. But yeah, Keanu Reeves, Apple TV. Anybody over there that's looking for new Apple TV movies, out now is Outcome, and go check it out and let me know down in the comment section below what your thoughts are. Or I'd love to hear those on my other social medias. You can send me DM or whatever you'd like to talk more about movies. Links for my other social medias, Big Cam, 2G's in the Big, down in the description below. You can find me. But if you made it this far into the video, I really appreciate you guys, and you guys are probably lovers of movies like myself, so please drop a like on this video and comment below and subscribe to support the channel. But, you know, watch more movies, go watch some of my other videos. But also if you're a fan of this and you've made it this far, I really do appreciate you, and I think we have more common than some of my friends actually do with me. So yeah, I'd love to be friends with you, as somebody who loves movies, and let's chat more about movies down in the comment section below. I always answer all of my comments, and about 99% of people are really nice. You know, I only get like a 1% asshole, so that's a pretty good ratio. And yeah, you know, whether you disagree with me or not, drop down below what you thought of Outcome and Jonah Hill's directing of Outcome here, and also starring as that crazy guy Ira, but also Keanu Reeves as Reef Hawk, and Cameron Diaz. Love to see her back acting. You know, she took a break for a while and then just came back a couple of years ago to acting, and she's been doing more and more stuff. Love to see it. You know, need Cameron Diaz around. It just feels right. But yeah, love this cast, love this film. Go check it out on Apple TV Plus, or just Apple TV now. And once again, my name's Big Cam, and I'll see you gorgeous folks in the next video. Peace.